Hello, welcome back. This is the final chapter. I'll start with the scene you're familiar with. This is the first, maybe quite obvious thing, that I've got some weird black planes. When I turn on the ambient occlusion, one side is black and the other side is, you can see the texture. So the reason is that the normals are facing this way. For those of you who don't know how to check the normals, let me show you. So yeah, you gotta go to the display tab, polygons, and here you got the face normals. Yeah, as soon as you click it, you should see the thing. Well, I don't see anything because the scale of the scene is quite big, so I got to increase the normal size, let's say to 300. Yeah, sorry for that. Alright, so here's my normal. So you can just reverse it. It's right here, and it's good. It's looking good now. So you got the opposite side black, and see again there is some transparency issues. So next I switch to the camera. You notice that I got the black fields over here. So in case you would like to, well, let me show you the camera settings. If you wanted to make it black and not transparent, you should go to the display option, and here got the gate mask color. So that by default it's gray and it's like semi-transparent, maybe like this, I don't actually remember. So you fix it here. Next thing you got to keep in mind that when you're working with the Viewport 2, as soon as you hit playblast, it will capture everything you got on screen, including these lights, the directional light, the camera. So probably you want to turn it off. You can do it right here, so show, and you can select none and select only the polygons. If you got the splines, maybe you should turn it on as well, but this is it for this scene. I don't use any particles or fluids or cloth. The other thing I like to pay attention at, if you, let's say again, this is the another scene, there's nothing special about, it's like the rocket flies through the sky, and again I switch to the camera. I want to hide everything, all, yeah, show none, I don't want to see anything, and then I want to see my polygons, and I want to see my fluids. Alright, so we see the fluids, but also we see these containers, so you can't just turn off the fluids because it will disappear at all. So you got to go to the fluid options, and under the display tab, yes, right here, there is a bounded draw, so by the default it's bottom, and you got to set it none, and it's looking good now. Alright, actually there is a playblast display option, so you can check the override viewport and select only the polygons, and this will work fine. So as soon as you start rendering, it will use these override options, and while you're walking in Maya, you can turn everything on. Alright, so the next thing is, I guess this is quite obvious. Yeah, these icons right here. So we want to turn on the textures always. Next we turn on the lights, shadows, the ambient occlusion. This is the motion blur. Alright, and this is the anti-aliasing and the depth of field. So this is all the options, and to change the setups for them, you should go to the Viewport option box. And here we go. Here's our settings. And by the way, for those of you guys who are working in Maya 2016, it's not enough to turn on the depth of field right here, because nothing gonna happen. What you got to do is go to the camera settings, and right here in the bottom there is a depth of field, so you should turn it on. Alright, so let's talk about the options a bit. Let's change the default settings. Vertex animation cache, I use the hardware, GPU instancing. I don't have any instancer in scene. Instance is supposed to be the copy of an object that got the same textures, the same shape. The speed of drawing the instancer is a lot faster than just a standard way of duplicating objects. Alright, the thread dependency graph evaluation, I leave it as it is. The light limit, as I mentioned in, I guess, in the part 3. This is the number of light sources that have been calculated inside the scene. So if you got 5 sources and the limit say to 4, the last one won't be calculated. The next thing, the transparency algorithm. Right, next we got the texture resolution. I mentioned about this in the second part. If you got not too much memory, you can set it, let's say, to smaller resolution, and the scene will use less resources in this case. Let's get it back. Well, I don't use any bake resolution. Then we got the ambient occlusion options. Well, I'm not gonna talk about it a lot. This is quite obvious, so you can change the values wherever you like to. The samples is the quality, basically. The more samples you got, the more accurate you'll get the ambient occlusion. Of course, the higher value, the lower rendering speed. Next, I got the motion blur. Again, quite obvious. I'm gonna talk about it a lot. So again, samples, the quality. Alright, next we got the anti-aliasing. Smooth wireframe, you don't need it. Multi-sampling anti-aliasing. In my case, 8 passes. Probably if you got the NVIDIA card, you got a 16. Then we got the gamma correction. You can change it. I never do. We got the floating point. If you are working with the shader effects, maybe use the DirectX 11 shader and you got a quite complicated reflection, so probably you'll see the difference, but in most cases you can just leave it off, as you don't need. So this is all about the rendering options. Let's next look through the playblast settings. I'm gonna reset it. Okay, so the first thing is view. This is actually quite important thing. what it does, it launches automatically when the rendering is completed any default video player, or in case you're using the image as the output, it's gonna launch the fcheck. The problem with fcheck is that it uploads the whole sequence into your RAM memory, so you might face the problem that you just basically got run out of the memory. So in most cases, when you're rendering the images, it's better to turn it off. Next thing is the show ornaments. This is the all information that been displayed on the screen, like the camera, I don't know, the focal length, the frame, the resolution. So it's all stuff from this tab, right? If you want to hide it, you got to uncheck it, but I prefer to turn it on. The next thing is render off screen. The next is the render off screen. In most cases, well, in 99%, it doesn't matter whether it's checked or not, but there is always 1% that makes a big difference. So I tried to recreate the scene when I faced the problem, but probably because I'm using the latest series pack, I don't have this problem anymore. But anyway, let me just briefly explain what was going on. So I had something similar. It's like the rocket fly through the fluids, through the clouds, fluids, whatever. And in this window, in the workspace, it looked fine, but as soon as I render it, my fluids were displaying incorrect. So I had like slices all the way around, and let's say in this frame I could see the ground. So I've been tried different ways to solve that, but in the end, render unchecking this guy, and just let me show you. Too low frames. Yeah, so when the renders off screen is unchecked, it basically captures the information from this window. Maybe for some reason it's using different algorithm, but anyway, if you face some problems with the fluids, just try to render it. Try to uncheck the render off screen, but as I mentioned, in 99%, maybe because they fixed this bug, it's working good now, and it's true for my 2016 as well. The next thing is the multi-camera output. This is the stereo cameras. I don't have any, so I don't need it. Next, the format. The AV, this is the video file, and the image. The thing about the AV file format, even though there are several encoding types, codecs been presented here, but for some reason I always get uncompressed video, so the file size in this case is really high. And as soon as the file size gets more than 4 gigabytes, it just basically not saving the output, so you got the error in the end, and you'll have to render it again. So if you got high resolution or you got a long shot, it's better to use the image. Image encoding, there's different file types. Normally I use JPEGs or the PNG. The good thing about the PNG or the TIFF and other file formats that support in the alpha channel, that let's say I'm gonna hide this. You'll get the alpha channel. So I saw some videos on the YouTube where guys were changing the background color to green or blue to key it off later, but come on, you don't have to do that. So if you need the alpha channel, just choose the PNG and or TIFF. Yeah, so it's working really good. Let's get back to the video format. As I mentioned, this is, at least for me, doesn't make any sense, because I always get the uncompressed video. The quality, well, it's obvious 100 is the best quality here, so we can change it. Next we got the display size. From window means that it will take this size from the view, from the viewport. From render settings, yeah, let's take these guys. Scale again, so it will cut the resolution 2 times, and scale 1 is basically this. Frame padding is the same as here. It as the 0 for it's not number of 0 before the file name. This is important for the compositing software like the Nuke, so it expects you to get the file name with this name. And the last thing is remove temporary files. Sure you wanted to delete it, and sure you want to save it somewhere. Alright, let's render this shot, and I'm gonna save it as the image, and let's say I wanna use the JPEG and create a new folder, set it test, and I choose the JPEG here as well. Say test, and let's render it, but before I do that, let me launch the task manager, and now I hit the playblast. Alright, what I'm wanting you to show that rendering with the viewport doesn't loads up your CPU, so you see it's like 15%, maybe less, 10%. So what does it mean? That you can open the same scene in different Maya windows and render the whole scene maybe in one time. So let me just pause the video and show you this. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. You can open the Maya several times. Let me show you the task manager again. So at the moment I almost ran out of the memory, and let's render it. But again, if you're doing things like that, always turn off the view, because as I mentioned, when the rendering will be completed, the whole image sequence will be uploaded, fcheck will upload it, all image sequence to the memory, so I'm pretty sure that your OS will just crash. I'm not sure that you wanna have this, so let's render it. And you see, I still got about 40% been taken by the viewport, and still I got enough memory to open up the other window and set the rendering again. So what it means that you can render the whole scene. If you got, let's say, 5 shots in the scene, you can render it at once. So this is pretty cool, and it was a nice surprise for me at some point. Alright, so I guess this is it. I hope that my tutorials really help you to understand the viewport. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to answer all of them. So this is it. Subscribe, like me, and I think the next tutorial gonna be about the end cloth. So see you later, guys. Bye.